Hello and welcome to this brief introduction into Easy Platform Enterprise and the capabilities that we provide out of the box. For this demonstration, I will be using a Tasteful Planet site. This is a demo installation of Easy Platform where we have a generic site with some blog posts and some other items here. The site's content structure is relatively simple, but it makes for a good demonstration and interface. So if we head over to the administration interface of Easy Platform, on the main page you can see the dashboard. The dashboard lists all kind of recent activities that have been going on in this installation. Then going through the tabs individually from the top, so we head over to the content structure. This is really the heart of Easy Platform. So our content engine is the engine that powers everything on the site for the structure. And each and every content item here, if we take, for example, one article as an example, called Mexican cuisine, each content item is built on a content type. So in this case, we have an article, and then an article has individual fields. In this case, we have a title, short title, summary, rich text with some embedded images, and so on. So here you can see also we have a location field and some other relationship fields. So all of this is something that always runs in the background. And for each content item, we have some metadata. So we have keep automatically details of the content item. Then we have technical details such as technical IDs in the background of the system. We also have additional metadata and also a listing of sub-items which would be in the tree. So in this case, obviously, this article doesn't have anything underneath it, so the sub-items listing is empty. Here on the versions tab, you can see some history on editing this content item. So on each and every edit of the content repository or any item in the content repository, the system creates a new draft, and a draft is then pushed to be live, and anything else earlier is then pushed into archived. You also have a limit for archived versions. By default, this is, I believe it's 10, but this is something you can configure. So if you don't wish to litter your database with a large number of versions, then you can modify this. Another key feature in our repository is a feature called locations. So one piece of content can be published in multiple different locations. So here, for example, we have this specific article in one location, but if I click on the plus sign and see this widget, which allows us to modify this interface or this serve our content repository, if I were to place it here in products, you will see that this item now has two locations. One is here, and the other one would then be in products, which in this case you can see here. So this means that you have the powerful capability of publishing the same item in multiple different locations of your site. I will now remove this added location because this is not something that we will be working with now. So now the Mexican cuisine is always, again, just placed in the places and tastes location. Here we also can see one of the key features in our content repository, which is the relationship between each individual content item. So in this article, you can see that we have a number of relationships to other items. We have quite a few relationships to images and articles. There are different types of relationships. Some are embedded, some are field relations, and you can also find reverse relationships, so items that link to this article. But here, if we look at examine quickly the relation type, the embed and field relationships can be actually seen in the preview site. So here you can see, for example, this image is a related image, and we have then some explicitly linked articles here in a related articles field. So all of the images, for example, here, if I go into and see the guacamole image, this image is actually a separate object, which is placed here in the media library under media images, tastes, Mexican cuisine, and guacamole, and this then has the actual image. So this allows efficient reuse of media and other items which are placed here in our content repository. If I go again into relations, I can see that this image is used in one article, and if I navigate here, clicking the Mexican cuisine, I can find this article again. So this relationships functionality is very powerful, and it always works in the background when you're creating, modifying and editing your content. The translations tab shows that we have multilingual capabilities in our product. So all of the different languages that you want to translate an individual article to can be also modified here. So in this case, we have one for English, one for French, one for German, and one for Norwegian. And the codes are also displayed here. So you can also then, if you click the editing, you can see that you can also modify individual translations using this widget. On the left-hand side, we have the content tree, which is a small but very useful and powerful functionality for you to navigate within your content tree structure. Then on the right-hand side, you can see the create button, which allows you to select a specific type of content item that you want to create and a specific translation that you want to use. Then continuing on this, if we see the edit button, this will then click us to the edit view. We can also move this item, so this is related to the locations functionality, so we could move this to another locations. We can also take a copy of the whole object, which will then copy each and every translation of this object, and so on. We can also copy a subtree. So in this case, this item does not have anything underneath it, so the subtree would just be this itself. But if we were to copy the whole taste section, then each and every item underneath it would also be copied. You can also then hide items, which means that they are just simply not available through the front-end design of the site. They will still be available in the administration interface. Then we also have the trash capability, so when you do create items, they are pushed into trash by default. Here in the top menu, you can also see the media library, for example. This is something where you can create folders, organize your image and other media assets as you may want to organize. Inside the link manager, each and every time you make a reference to a link, we keep internally in the repository, we keep track of those items, and you can find all of them here. There's also a nightly task that will review and check if that URL is still valid or not. All of this content repository and the structure that we have here, depending on the fields that you want, all of this is handled within our content types. So this is basically a stencil for your content items. You can modify whatever fields you would like, for example, a blog post to have. Inside the blog post, you can have multiple fields. We're not going to modify these now, but the model is dynamic, so you can modify it later and then place in the front end only the fields that you want to be shown. But then going on to the top, you can see there's some more technical things. We don't have time for all of these in this video. We'll have more in-depth videos later. But in this case, if we take a quick look at the workflow capability, so out of the box, Easy Platform Enterprise ships with a workflow functionality. You can define workflows within the system. So they are defined based on individual content types. In this case, the article workflow is configured to only be active on a content type called article. It has 4 stages: a draft, design, proofread, and done. These are again configurable based on your business needs. You can also see a simple view on how an item can move within the workflow. So in this case, it could be moved to draft and then back to draft, and also, so once it's done, it's published and it exits the workflow capability. And how this works is if we go to the content structure, we head over to Places and Tastes, which is our location here. And we can then click, and I will create an article. So in this article, we will have an article on delicious handmade Karelian pies. I will paste this, and then I will copy a little bit of content here to the summary, and a little bit of content then to the body. And I will also then add an image here. You can drag and drop images from your machine. And now we could also place here, I can find, let's see, we can find Kareli here. So this is then also located on the map, which is something that is useful for certain kinds of content. And you can define additional functionalities and additional tags such as a taxonomy based on what you need. You can then see on the right hand side the buttons available. So the first button is Send to Design. This is a part of the workflow, and the next one is Publish, because in this case I'm an administrator user, so I could override and simply jump to publishing this article altogether straight away, bypassing the workflow functionality, but we will be using the workflow functionality in this case. We can also choose to publish later, or then simply save a draft and then return to editing later. And you also have the capability of clicking the preview, which will use the exact same template set as you have on the front end to see how it looks like on the front end site. Then clicking back, accidentally I need to move this content to the body because it looks a bit empty. But what we'll do next is we'll send this to design. Please add recipe images, submit. And once I submit this, on the dashboard, the review queue here now shows more additional items. It shows that this item is now in design state. It's an article, and there's some additional metadata. And if I go in to edit this one then, based on the configured workflow, I could either send this to proofread, back to draft, and so on. If I send this to proofread, check spelling, I'll just go through the whole process, and then finally this is in proofread mode, and then I will click done. You can see history of all the events here, what brought this item into this in the publishing stage, and then I will click done, and then we're published. So now our content item is published. You can also see here that we have our our URL, and we can also then find the direct URL on the front end to see how it goes, like this. So here you can see this one is now showing and it's live. So that was the basics of how you can manage content. All of this is something which you usually configure based on your project needs and define. So in addition to this more field-based view, which we were seeing here, you can also use the page tab to navigate through a site in a more user-friendly manner or a visual manner. So here, what you can do is navigate the site. I can click here and go back and forth, back to Tasteful Planet landing page. Then if we would like to, let's say, create a new blog post, what I can do is click on the blog. And here we see we have individual blog posts. To create a blog post underneath this blog, I can click the plus icon, then I will select the blog post. And I will select here, and I will use the greetings from SymphonyCon 2019 as an example. I will again copy a little bit of the content here, the intro, and then the body here. As you can see, also some of the fields are required, some are not. So depending on your configuration, you will define what fields are necessary and what are not. Here again, we have an image field which we can use an image from either the content repository, which has already been uploaded, or then I can select something from my desktop and add it to the blog post. So here you can see this, and then I can have a quick preview of what this blog post would look like, and it looks fine. So I can also, by the way, preview it in different view modes. So here we have the desktop, then tablet, and phone viewports available for preview. But now I'm satisfied with what I saw, and I will click publish. And then on the front end side, if I click into the front page again, I will click into the blog. Here you can see greetings from SymphonyCon 2019 blog post is live. So this is not the only functionality that the landing page builder functionality adds. We also have under site a functionality called page builder. So if I head over to a specific type of content, in this case the places and tastes landing page is made of individual bits and pieces. Here you can see places, then you have a blog from our main site, some additional lift ups and so on. This is something which you can use to build in a visual way. So when I click the edit button, I will get a view that looks like this. Inside our template, we have some areas here where you can drop elements. So inside this widget, we have a configurable list of elements, which depends on your site implementation. But if I would like to promote our blog articles on this page, what I can do is select one of these blocks. I will select the content list. So the content list is a dynamic listing of content in the repository. And this is a configurable block. So if I click on it, I have the content list name. This is blog posts. And I will click parent. And from the tree structure, I will select the blog. And underneath the blog, we have 4 articles altogether. I'll click confirm, and then I will click limit. And here inside, we can also then define what kind of items we would like this listing to result in. I'll click submit. And here we have now a dynamic listing of blog posts, which is then something which is a reference with those parameters that we posted. So when we add more posts, you do not need to edit this landing page. I will then publish this one, and you can see our blog posts are here. And of course, this design on the front end is the same design. So this is just another alternative view to this interface. You can also see there's some additional capabilities here, such as the timeline functionality. So if I will just quickly add something else. So I will create a temporary notice block here. I will click here, and this is a very crude block. So I can create pure markup here with the code block. Then I will click the scheduler tab here. Scheduler tab allows you to show and hide items as you want. So I can select the reveal date. So I will put this to next Friday or Saturday evening, for example. so that maybe it's a weekend campaign. And then I will hide it again early on Monday morning on December 1st. So I will still change the time to 03:25. And now we're satisfied with that. And then once I publish it, you can see as the administrator user, I can see this scheduled block here, but the scheduled block should not be available for anonymous users here. So because it's grayed out, the design doesn't show this necessarily unless you see it. But then when I click here on the scheduler tab, you can see a couple of functionalities here. You can see the reveal block will be shown here. You have also an alternative view of listing items, or then you can see here. And then if I choose to jump into next on Sunday, and I will choose the time to be here, you can see the functionality, the hide block is coming into effect there early in the morning. If I click here, you can see this is now black. So this functionality is something that you can also use in your applications. So that's one one functionality that you should consider and as an advantage in the Enterprise Edition. Another capability that we ship with is the form builder. This allows us to build forms which will be displayed and managed by the staff without coding work. So if we choose our story in this case, so we had the Symfony 2019 event, and let's say we have the 2020 event. It has already been announced where this event will be located in, but we want to maybe have a raffle on the tickets. So if we want to attach a form to this article, we will use the content repository first to create a new form. So I click on the Forms tab, and then on the top here, I will create a new form. And I will select this title, copy this title, so that we have the SymfonyCon 2020 ticket raffle form. I'll also copy this text, which would be saying something along the lines or introducing the raffle. Then for the form itself, we have a field type which contains the form. So I'll click this one. So let's add, first of all, if you want to take part, you should define a name. You have some additional functionalities that you can put here, whether something is required or not, and how it should validate. Then let's put an email field, so your email, so we can contact you. And then finally, let's put a radio event or field, sorry. And here for the field, we'll call this SymfonyCon 2020 location. And let's add here some cities or locations. And let's add a third one, for example, Warsaw. So we have these four options now. So we have the name, email, and then the selection itself. What we still need to do in addition is to define a button. So this button allows you to make the form interactive and do something. Send your best and send your guess if it's knowledge. So here you can have a few different messages. You can show a message, show a content item from the repository, or possibly redirect to a different URL. In this case, we will want to show a message. Thank you for your participation. We will let you know if Lady Luck favor you. You could also define notification emails if you want. So here now we have our form built, and I will publish it. Note that this is not directly available through any URL on the site because it's living outside of the site root. But here you can see what the form would look like. You could, of course, publish this form directly on the front page or by moving it or adding a location. But in this case, because what we wanted to do was to make it available and related very closely to the blog post about the SymphonyCon 2019, I will navigate the content structure. Then I will head over to not the place and taste, but the greetings from SymphonyCon. Of course, I could use the page view as well. But then here I will click edit. And one notable thing about our rich text field is that inside the rich text field, as you could remember, there are related items. Every content item is something that you can define relationships to, even within the content, rich content area. So I'll add a new embed using this tab. I will select it from the forms. We have two forms here. This is the one we just created. I'll click confirm. And now we have a relationship between these two, or the form is embedded here. I will click publish. And here you can see we have a rough view already here. You can see there's also a relationship. So there's now a relationship to the image that we uploaded and then to the form. And on the front end, it will look hopefully something that you can submit. So here we can, for example, Mark Michaels, example.com. He thinks that it will be in Warsaw, and I will send my guess. And then we get the thank you message here by default in this format. So we have now one entry, and how you can see the entries are in the forms section. So if I click here, I can get to the forms and ticket, raffle, form, and then submissions. And you can see here we have the entry from our fictitious character Mark Michaels. So this concludes the brief demo. There's of course much and much more related to languages and translations and all kind of capabilities, but this is a rough overview which I hope you found useful in understanding how Easy Platform functions and what its basic capabilities are out of the box. Thank you very much for your interest. Bye.